everybody. I'm Shaq,
And I'm Chris.
and thanks for joining us for another episode of
Let me tell you.
where we explore ways to navigate life's transitions and challenges and find motivation to make the necessary changes to live a healthy and full life.
And here's our housekeeping statement. On this podcast, you will hear from social workers, counselors, therapists, and sex coaches. But please remember that we are not your social worker, counselor, therapist, and sex coach. These conversations are for informational purposes only. Please refer to your medical or mental health professional for advice and diagnosis on your specific problem.
And with that being said, let's get into it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Let Me Tell You. Today, we're going to...
Hey, everybody.
I'm sorry, I be acting like I'm on here by myself.
I know you just
Hey,
open
hello,
yourself.
everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode. Oh, Shaquan, that's why you still here.
And go put baby in the corner, not today.
Can I say hey too?
All right.
Slow down, woman.
Come on, let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. You in a rush. You ready to tell you ready to hit this topic. This one close to your heart. I know it is.
Sure enough is. So everybody, today we're going to be talking about how to manage anxiety in the workplace, on the job, with the coworkers and the boss.
Yeah.
So
And the students, if you're a teacher or
mhm,
you work at a college or a middle school or grammar
Mhm.
school.
or in a business office, if you do something that doesn't involve students, I don't know. We trying here sitting here describing all kinds of business places, or if you work in a factory, or if you work on the ocean, if you're a military person.
If you work at a car dealership, if you work at the
If you work at the
Paneras,
local
if
shop,
you-
right? Or if you're in the South, what, Walmart, Super Center,
hello, I know if you work at Walmart, you got some anxiety.
especially on Black Friday. Actually, no, they probably don't got that Black Friday issues no more, do they? You don't see nobody in the news dying at Walmart no
Is it?
more on Black Friday. They kind of fixed that up. I think
Yeah.
they worked that out. Anyway,
I'm happy.
off topic.
Wait. We left one
Oh,
out. If you're a stay-at-home
yes.
mom,
I mean,
'cause that
who's
is
your
what-
boss if you're a stay-at-home mom?
Usually the person who's home the most is the
No,
boss.
who's your boss?
So you
So
your own
who's your
boss.
boss?
God be my boss.
Jesus, my personal savior.
Jesus, my boss.
Oh, I thought you was gonna say your husband.
My husband is there. My husband sometimes he be the
He's a
superintendent.
superintendent.
It's all right. Yeah, sometimes he be the superintendent.
Okay.
Who's your boss? God, Jesus, our Lord and Savior.
We over here doing testimony. Testimony time.
I like to thank God who's the head of my life and my household.
Oh man. Yes. All right. How to manage anxiety in the workplace. Now, first of all, what is anxiety? What's anxiety, Shaq?
What? Huh? You asking me? What is anxiety? Well, thanks for asking. That's a great question.
And some people who this is your first episode, we do this all the time. I always say the topic, and then Shakura would be like, "So what is it, Chris?" I'm like, I'm like, what is it to me? I be like straight up like, what's going on? This is not the script. What's happening right now?
Just gonna put me on Front Street. You're gonna throw me right up under the bus. That's what it is.
Oh man.
Okay. Well, I think anxiety is a form of I want to say maybe extreme fear or stress, nervousness, or overload in the nervous system maybe because of stress, wherever you are, wherever that stress may be. We find that a lot of kids who are diagnosed with autism sometimes have
Hmm.
anxiety, and that may show up a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
Was that a good
that's pretty
answer?
good. That's pretty good.
Was that
And I would even add to that
okay?
answer like persistent or intense worrying. Like you're worrying about something, you're
Yeah,
worrying about someone, whether it be what that person thinks about you, or you're worrying about you know,
passing a
passing a
test
test or
or
making sure you do something right
mhm.
for the boss, or making you're worrying about whether you sent the email, if there was any typos before you sent it, or who's going to read it and
Yeah,
what they're going to think about you after they read it, or if especially if you're just yeah, criticism
criticism.
from
Yeah,
coworkers,
things discover
criticism from the
criticism.
boss, and then your heart starts beating fast, you start breathing fast, you start sweating, you might start getting extra tired for no reason. It's all that. It's all that. And most of the times when
Yeah, some people actually get physically ill too.
yeah, you
Sometimes.
could. I mean, you could be worrying yourself with that
Hmm.
line people say, I don't know if it's I don't know call it a metaphor or whatever, but worrying yourself to death. That can actually happen.
Yeah,
You can actually worry
yeah,
yourself
yeah.
to death, which I mean, it sounds
Hmm.
extreme, but I mean, it happens. If you
Yeah, stress is real. Stress is real, and stress
Yep.
can kill.
Yep, puts a lot of pressure on your heart and I'm sure other
Your organs puts a lot of pressure on your
right.
organs. Yeah, overwork on your
Mhm.
body, your bladder, your liver, everything intensifies. It tightens up and it's hard to release, or you're supposed to have this contraction and that contraction is not happening, so you're
Mhm.
constantly tense and on alert, which triggers that fight or
Right.
flight mode. And I guess we're going to talk about how it shows up
Yeah. So a
sometimes in
lot of
people.
times, especially at work, when we're feeling anxious or fearful or worrying or whatever, we start blaming our external surroundings. Like, oh, my boss is too crazy, he's too demanding, the job is too hectic. They expect me to do all this stuff all in this little amount of time, and my coworkers are disrespectful. They don't know how to talk to people. I got too much to do or whatever. Or if we're not blaming on external things, we start looking inside of us, like our own personal failings. Like I'm not smart enough. I'm not motivated enough. I'm lazy.
Mhm.
I need better time management skills. And we
I don't have enough education. I don't have enough experience. I don't speak eloquently. I don't know the right words to use. I'm too short. I'm too high. I speak my
right.
mind too much. I can't speak, like, it's just a number of things that can just spiral out of control, that we
Hmm.
ruminate on, that are really untrue, but they prevent us from, I think, finding success in whatever the things are that we have to accomplish in our
Right.
day.
And our goal is at that point, okay, we pointed out all these external things, we pointed out some of these internal things about how we feel about what we personally are doing wrong, maybe in a situation, trying to fix it. Like, okay, if I just need to fix it, I just need to fix it. I just need to, either fix the external things or fix the stuff the way that I think about my feel about myself. But while we're trying to fix it, while we're going over all those explanations about why you're feeling that way, it just makes you feel more anxious because you're literally
Yeah.
combining or making a list of all the negatives that is wrong in your life. A
Yeah.
big old list. And you think you
Yeah.
making that big old list is gonna make you feel better? Because all the only thing on the list is negative. Ain't no positive stuff on the anxiety list.
Yes.
There's only negative stuff on the anxiety list, which causes even more
Yeah.
anxiety. So it's like a cycle. Like, okay, I'm gonna fix it. Let me see what's wrong. So you list all
Yeah.
the things that's wrong. You list all the things that's wrong with you. And you list all the things that's wrong with your boss. You list all the things that's wrong with your coworkers. And it becomes
Mhm.
very overwhelming. So what's the first
Yeah, it prohibits you from being able to
right?
perform well, right? And it prohibits you from making deep connections with other people. It prohibits you from, um, it can prevent you from getting the promotion
Mhm.
at work, right? Because you're negatively thinking about your boss, you're negatively thinking about your coworkers. Somehow you're fearful that people are like trying to sabotage you, or you think somebody else is better than you or more qualified than you. And so you really are keeping yourself from being able to take the next steps to, I guess, accomplish whatever thing that you set out that you want to accomplish, to be successful or to be intentional or
Right.
consistent.
And so the most used solution to these problems, after you made all these long lists of why everybody's terrible and why you're terrible and why everything around you is terrible, you first think, you know what? I need to remove myself from the situation. I need to leave this job and I need to go find me another job that has better bosses, better people, better environments. And you just like, I just want to leave. I just want to leave.
Mhm.
And
It activates that fight or flight. So, flight, you're running.
right, right. And the reason why I this is like I'm really into this topic because I was talking about the same kind of stuff with my own therapist, because I was having my own, second thoughts and guesses about my job and things like that. And I'm not saying at this point I'm totally cured and I think everybody's there is wonderful and everything's great. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what I'm saying is, yes, I was having, issues and things like that, and different feelings and thoughts about it. I was feeling anxious about certain things. And of course, my initial thing, oh, you just get another job, which, at this climate, especially in the education field, that's very easy. Just get another job, But then I'm thinking, but then recently when I started thinking about that, I was like, you know what? If I go somewhere else, and what if I feel the same way there? Like, what if all these issues that I'm having right now, they follow me there? So then what would I have left for? Like, I don't think it's just me
Yeah,
changing locations. And I'm not saying that's not going to happen ever in the future, but I think first I need to work on why I'm this way. Why every time something happens, I'm like you're saying, fight or flight. Like I'm just like, the world's over if I don't do this right, if I don't get this right, if I don't hand this in time. Like this was like my mentality, which caused a lot of that anxiety. Um, and another
right.
most used solution is I need to change part of myself. Be less. Be less anxious. Be less scared. Be less upset. And,
Mhm.
it kind of makes me laugh because I was talking to someone about some of this, how I was feeling about things, and they was like, "Well, just stop. You're feeling anxious. Just don't be
Just
anxious.
just stop feeling anxious. Just oh, you're feeling,
Just
just
stop
stop being
feeling that
anxious,
way.
Chris. You don't have to be anxious. You can just, like, drink a cup of water
Just
and
drink
you'll
some
be
chamomile
okay.
tea and stop." Even me saying it, I was like, "This is like," and I'm just looking at them like, "Okay, thank you, thank you for that, thank you for that."
That
That
was
was
the
the best.
best
That was
advice.
the best advice.
Nobody's
So
ever
you mean
told
I
me
should
that
just stop being
before.
anxious? Wow,
Wow.
wow.
That's really profound. So profound.
It's like I'm thinking. I mean, it makes me giggle, but but people, people, you know, just because some of the good people don't always give good advice. That's all.
Facts.
That's all. People do
Facts.
the best they
Yeah.
can, what they got. And I don't
Facts.
judge them. I don't blame them. I don't get angry with them. It's just where it is what it is. You take it that
Yeah.
them saying that to you pretty much is them saying, you know what, I care about you, I support you, I wish I could help you, and this is what I'm saying to do that. And if
Yeah.
that's how they convey that support and love to you, I accept it for what it is. It's
Mhm.
support and love.
Yeah.
It's not fact, but
Yeah.
support and love, and I'm taking it.
Yeah. It's that, like, for instance, I get a lot of anxiety driving over
Yes, she
bridges,
does. Yes,
and
she does.
so I don't stop driving over the bridges, but there are times when my anxiety is so high, I can't get across the bridge.
Right, because and you guys, I don't
And
mean to interrupt Shakura, but I've always known Shakura had issues with bridges. I always known it. She told me about it, but I just didn't. I guess I didn't believe it until that time. Was that 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? It was her birthday
Yes.
weekend. I was down in Virginia, visiting and coming down for the birthday party, whatever. And we're driving. I'm in the car with her. Her mom was in the back. My sister, I think, was in the back. We driving across this bridge, and we just driving. And I'm thinking like, okay. And then we just started going slower and slower. And I'm like, sure, you are slower. And then she just flat out stops driving. I should ask you if I shared this story before I shared it. She stopped driving. And there's like a bunch of people behind us. People started beeping. I was like, what is happening? Why are you not driving? I was like, Shakura, what's wrong? And she was just so, I'm assuming, I can't be inside of her, but I was assuming she was just so scared that she couldn't even finish driving over the bridge. And I didn't realize it was at that level until I was there with her I had to run out the car on the highway, folks. And I had to go
Yeah.
driver's seat and finish driving across the bridge. I was like, wow, I
Yeah.
believe you now. Like before, I believed you, but you know how you
Yeah.
believe somebody when they say something, but you're like, yeah, okay, but you know you can find it. But
Mhm.
hand up to God.
Yeah. I mean, my husband, we were driving across a bridge and literally I started sinking. I wasn't driving. I just started sinking into the chair and I was like, babe, I feel like I'm about to pass out. And he was like, what? I was like, I can't. And he was like, just put your head down. But by that time, it was too late. I was nauseous. I felt like I was about to throw up and just pass out. And he was like, Shakura, just breathe. Just. And the kids are like, what's wrong, mommy? And I'm like, it was hard to breathe. It was hard, like, because I already saw it coming. And when people say like, "Oh, you got to face your fears," I'm like, I've driven across bridges, but it's only intensified my anxiety, like to the point where I hate to drive now. Like if I don't know where I'm going, if I don't know if there's bridges, I'm not going. Like my husband, we had a wedding like 2 weeks ago. It was a 2 day wedding. It was an African wedding, and then they had a Christian wedding, so to speak. And I was like, "Well, you go. You can go to both because it's in DC, and DC has a lot of bridges, and I'm not going to go." And he was like, okay. So he went and he was like, I think you should go tomorrow. He was like, it was no bridges. I was like, are you sure it's no bridges? He was like, it's no bridges. And it wasn't, it was just a flat drive. But I will not, if my GPS come on and say, hey, we found a shorter route, I do not take the shorter route because I don't know if that route is going to lead to a bridge. If I'm going someplace and I know it's going to take me a minute to get there, I check the route to see if there are any bridges. And if there's bridges, I can't go. I have a friend who lived in Maryland, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't come back to your house. Like, I almost did not make it. I was crying at the end of the bridge, like, I can't do this. I can't drive across this bridge. I got across the bridge, but it was like, I can't do it again. And I have not, and that was like 4 years ago. I have never
Wow.
been back. I was like, if there's not another way to go, I just can't go. So I feel like it's untrue to tell people just face your fear or just stop doing it because sometimes it actually can intensify the level of anxiety.
So anxiety is real. All that to say, it is a real thing. It can stop people in their tracks, whether at work, whether outside the job,
Hmm.
in the streets, wherever. So when someone tells you, like, I'm really anxious about that, I have anxiety about that. When somebody tells you who they are, believe them. Is that Angelou?
Believe them.
Not Angela Bassett.
Angela Bassett.
Maya
Show
Angelou.
them who you are.
Angela
No.
Bassett.
Who? Maya Angelou?
Yeah, I knew it had something with
Yes.
Angela.
Okay.
So yeah, her face was in my
Because you
mind
said
because I just was
Angela, I'm
reading something
thinking
about
Angela
her the other day, and I was like, Angela,
Bassett.
my Angelo. I love that quote. I believe she said that. I believe she's the one who said that. If someone shows you who they are, believe
Mhm.
them. Hmm. Yes. So going back to workplace anxiety, I
Believe
wanted to
them.
read
Yep, that
something. I
came
was
from her.
listening, usually before these episodes, we do these podcasts, stuff like that. We do some research, and I was listening to this one woman on YouTube. She is a life coach, and she was saying something that I thought was very interesting. How um, our primal background as it relates to anxiety. So, we're born with primitive needs, like we want to survive. And how do we do that? We believe we want to be loved, we want to have a community, we want to have status, we want to be accepted, we want to be protected. We want to have purpose, and
Mhm.
we go through life wanting to do these things. And when we go to the workplace, we kind of treat the workplace as kind of like our like a little world, and we try to have those. Sometimes we bring in those same primitive needs into that area, and when someone does something that would put any of those in danger, it's like life or death scenario. It's not like, oh, my boss told me that I need to revisit this email because I made a mistake. It's our mind is thinking our boss hates us, he wants to kill us, we're going to die,
Mhm.
so we need to act accordingly. And that's kind of what kicks off all the overthinking, all the ruminating, all the anxiety, because you're worrying about something on a level that is not there. Like your brain thinks, okay, if I don't write this perfect email, I will not survive. If I don't finish this project in time, I could possibly die. Like my life is in danger. And we put our when we go into those primitive mindsets, everything it's like at 100. And when it's not, we are not in danger if we don't send an email in time. We're not going to die if we don't finish an assignment by the deadline. We're not going to, be banned from human livelihood if one of your coworkers doesn't like you. It's not that serious, but our mind is thinks that way sometimes because sometimes it does. So there's ways that you can tell if you're thinking in that primitive mind. Um, how do you
Oh,
know?
wait, before you go on, I just wanted to say it made me think about perspective.
Mm,
Like, what is your perspective at work? I know a lot of times when I was working, they would say, "We're going back to the plantation." And what is the association of your workplace in a plantation, especially as a person of color? Sometimes is like this workhorse. You don't have a say. You're not seen. They're just going to work you to death, get everything out of you. You're not going to gain any rewards, and so then that can build anxiety because your whole perspective about where you are, where you're working, is based off this idea that, hey, we're going to the plantation. You don't even realize sometimes how your words affect your emotions, right? How you think, what you say affects how you feel and what you do. And so, perspective, sometimes there needs to be a shift in perspective in order to just see really rightly what is actually happening in the workplace. Because, some workplaces, they do work you like a workhorse. It does feel kind of like a sweatshop or a plantation. But then some places, it's just this idea of like your fear of not being good enough for where you are or the work that you have to produce. So, perspective is important.
definitely, I definitely the perspective is important. You know, knowing really what like remind yourself why you're even at the job. Like, why are you there? Are
Mhm.
you there to, make best friends? Are you there to change the world every day? Are
Mhm.
you there to, make someone else look great? Like, why are you
Mhm.
really there?
Yeah.
Are you there because you're doing what you love? Are you there because it's a means for you to provide for your family? You
Mhm.
know, Sometimes when people say leave work at work, that's really something people really should do. I mean, I had to start. I shoot, I was bringing work home for a little while before I realized like, why am I doing all this extra work?
Mhm.
I'm like, for what?
Yep.
I mean, guess and I think the first week or so that I didn't like bring work home, or that I didn't constantly check my email when I was home, and over the weekend I'm checking email and maybe responding to some things. The first week I didn't do any of that was very difficult. Like I really had to physically remove my email thing from my phone
Wow.
because I'm like, if I still have it here, I'm gonna check it. I'm like, I
Mhm.
just but when I first stopped doing that, the following week, I was like, "Oh, nothing bad happened."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I'm still here,
Yeah.
still standing, still strong. I still have a job." Yet, I only worked within my 8-hour day. Who would
Mhm.
have thunk?
Yeah.
That's something people do, and
That.
everything's okay.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes we just need to remember that. Like when you go to work, what you're doing there while you're there is what they're paying for during that time frame.
Mhm.
You don't have to be taking work home. You don't have to be constantly checking your email. You
Yeah.
don't have to do that,
Yeah.
especially if it's not your own personal business. Let's go
Yeah.
there for a second.
Yeah. I agree.
You spend all this extra time making somebody else rich, or
Yeah.
make somebody else look great, or
Facts.
make some, and yet if you're gonna put if you got all that kind of energy, if you got that much energy where you want to be working overtime for free,
Mhm.
doing all this work,
Yeah.
you need to put that into something of your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's just sit there for a second.
I
Just
agree.
sat up there for a second, but get me started. So
Before you
how do
move
you
on,
know?
I wanted to say something you said made me think about two things. One, I don't know if you sent this to me. It was a video of a guy sitting in the car, and his caption said, "Me before I go into the job, me before I go into work." In the job that I prayed and fasted and asked God for, and he's just sitting in the car, and his hands on the steering wheel. Then he takes like this deep breath, and then he gets out of the car like, "Okay." I thought
Yeah, I
that
said
was
that.
so funny. It was so funny. I was like, okay, bruh. Like it bees like that sometimes. You think it's the perfect job, and then you get there like, oh, I didn't realize I actually don't want to do this. At
I
least I
think
don't
some,
want to do this with these people. Yes,
and
that
I
was
think
so funny.
sometimes I was gonna say, I think sometimes when people think about their job, they're thinking about the TV version of their job,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
not the real life version of their job.
Yeah.
I'm like, you gotta remember, like TV version and real version are not the same thing.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody following you. This is not what's that show that I really like watching? What's the name of that show? She just got a couple awards from NCAA award.
Oh, that's
What's
the
that girl?
Abby,
What
something
A-
Abby.
Abby, Abby
Abbott
something.
Elementary.
Yes, I love that show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it makes being a teacher look awesome. I mean, they still got some other stuff in there, but it looks make it look awesome. But
Uh-huh.
there's some negative parts, y'all, just like any
Yeah.
other job.
Yeah. Yeah.
But nobody's really want to highlight all the negative parts because it wouldn't be
Yeah.
as funny. But I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Wait. One more
oh,
thing. My second thing I had to remember because I got to speak out for my stay at home moms. I got to speak on our behalf because we be working. And
mm,
so what I wanted to say was like sometimes we just have to choose our battles. Like we get a lot of anxiety about making sure we're going to get all the things done in a day. And if you're like me and you're a homeschool mom and you're in school, or you're the nurse, you're the chef, you're the lawyer, you're the referee, a lot of the times, you're the caretaker, you are like you wear a lot of hats, and sometimes getting up to face the new day can be really overwhelming, especially when you have children with special needs. So you have sometimes there can be a lot of anxiety and buildup around like what is going to go wrong today, and so then we
mm,
go back to perspective because we're anticipating a lot of things going wrong, and so it makes wanting to face the day really difficult, and sometimes it can feel really lonely going into a day as a stay-at-home parent. Um, and I don't think we start talking about like solutions or anything yet, but I wanted to point out because I didn't want to leave out the stay-at-home moms, even moms who may have one child. It can be overwhelming because you never had a child before. And so not
right.
sleeping all night and having to be up all day and not taking showers and not eating because you have this new little life to take care of. You always constantly checking to make sure they still breathing and are you doing all the things right can be really overwhelming. And so I think sometimes we as stay-at-home parents still have to change our perspective also about the day and give ourselves a lot more grace. Like, man, if they still breathing and they healthy and they feel loved, I think you're doing a great job, mom and
Yeah,
dad, or you know uh, partners. You have healthy children and you love them, they feel loved and they feel supported. Give yourself a little bit more grace.
yeah. You got a roof over their head. They're eating every day. They're wearing clothes. They got shoes on. They
Mhm.
sometimes some days that's gonna have to be enough.
Yeah.
Now, though, granted, of course, there are going to be times where you're going to want more, and they're going to do better, or you're going to do better. Or they're going to. It fluctuates.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not speaking from a stay at home mom level, but just from me life. Every day is
Yeah.
going to be different. Everybody's going to be different. They're going to have a bad
Exactly.
mood one day. You're going to have a bad mood one day. They're going to have a
Mhm.
great mood one day, and that might not be the same day you have a great mood. So,
That's facts.
you know,
Facts.
it's really just I like what you said about giving having grace for yourself and being kind to yourself and not
Mhm.
over analyze or over judging or being too critical of yourself. Oh, I didn't do this and the other, that means I'm a horrible parent. No,
Yeah.
I didn't do this and the other, that means I'm a horrible employee or I'm a horrible wife or partner or whatever.
Yeah.
It just means that maybe in that moment in that day you weren't 100%, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever always 100%.
Yeah. Not always. And if you
So
have a partner to help you, like definitely lean on your partner. You don't have to take it on. I think that's something you mentioned a lot is like this idea like I'm taking on all of this stuff. I'm bringing work home. I'm checking emails when I should be resting and I'm volunteering for extra things. And why am I doing all of that?
why?
And as a
And like
stay-at-home parent, you don't have to do it all by yourself.
and actually I'm gonna touch a little bit on this because I know we over here going on a whole nother tangent. But for those kind of people who feel like they need to do extra, they need to volunteer themselves for all the other things, they need to go above and beyond, they need to take on additional assignments that nobody asked them to do.
Hmm.
Not question to you, because at the end of the day, you're gonna be complaining just like the rest of them because you, oh my God. But the thing is, you did that. You
Yeah.
took on all that stuff. You volunteered your services, and now you're upset. Now, why did you feel like you need to do that?
Hmm.
Is this fulfilling some need that you have inside yourself that is not being fulfilled elsewhere?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy feeling needed and you're not being feeling needed at home?
Hmm.
Or do you have a desire to feel wanted, to feel important, to feel is that something? I mean, that is part of the needs that everybody has, but sometimes the needs can be misplaced,
Yeah.
you know, um, or yeah, yeah. Sometimes the needs can be a little misplaced, and the people that you might be trying to get fulfill the needs from, they might not be the right people you need to get it from.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault.
Hmm.
It's nobody's fault. It's just, trying to knowing why you might be doing some things, which might,
Yeah.
help you figure out why or how you can, make it better.
Yeah, I feel like
So,
it's a running theme in all our podcasts is like that self-assessment. You have to
mhm.
do that self-assessing, figure out why you're doing certain things, what is it fulfilling or not fulfilling for you, and then you want to make decisions based off of what comes up for you in that self-assessing.
But when you're doing your self assessment, try not to make it a negative, all negative self assessment because
Yeah,
you're not, because that's usually when people think of self assessment, they think, okay, what's wrong? What's wrong with me?
yeah, yeah.
Like
No,
you go over all the things that's wrong with you, and but when you're assessing yourself, make sure you add in what's great about you because there are some things that are great about you.
yeah, and self-assessing is not really limit you don't limit yourself to what you think about you. When you have
Right.
good friends and people in your life, you want to go to them and ask them, "Hey, where do you see my strengths? What do you think my strengths are? Where do you see my weaknesses are? What things do you think that I do really good? What things do you think I can work on? Like, what are my blind spots?" So that you
Hmm.
can really know, like, okay, because you may think that you're a type of way or you're a type of person, and then the people around you like, Ashley, no. But that may not be you, but this is definitely you. We know like who to call on if one, two, three, four, five, right? And so, and then take that, don't feel down about what you're hearing and become more anxious because now you feel like you've been a bad friend or you're not perfect enough. But take what is being given and then think through it like how is that, how do I display that, do I see this in myself, is this something I want to hold on to, is this something I want to change or something I want to develop, and then you go and you process and then you make decisions from that day on, like how are you going to live your life, who are you going to be. It's a lot. It can take time. It takes time. It takes time.
Mhm.
So don't get anxious about it and then feel like, oh my God, I gotta do this right now and I need to know. And don't you the goal of it is not to cause you more stress, is to just recognize what those good qualities are that you have, to make sure, I think, we have that strength finder and all that stuff, to make sure that even in the place that you are, in the relationships that you have, that there's this combat compatibility there. And so, because sometimes you can be the right person but in the wrong job, right? Or
Mm,
you can be the right person in the wrong position, the right person in the wrong with connected to the wrong person or with the wrong group of friends. And so you want to assess those things so you can start being more intentional about making choices for yourself.
mm.
Yeah, that was just a whole tangent.
That's what we do here at
Yes.
Let Me Tell You. That's what we do.
But we're gonna bring it back now.
So, yes, we're bringing it back. So, how do
Yeah.
you know that you're thinking with your primitive brain? All right, let me give you some examples. You look at a to do list for the day and feel panicked.
Mhm.
Your heart races when the boss gives you critical feedback or even the idea of not liking something you did. Uh,
Mhm.
you feel making mistakes. Um, okay.
Making mistakes send you into a panic. You start to procrastinate. You start overthinking things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
You
insist.
feel.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say that you insist that your work has to be done a particular way. It needs to be something that is familiar because that's the only way you can be good at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You feel relief instead of joy when you perform well. So instead of celebrating your success, you're
Mm.
like, oh, one thing done. Oh my gosh, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And everybody else is celebrating you, and you're just worried about going on to the next thing. Because I'm like, I'm just, God, this is done. Check this off my list. Let's go. I'm let's move it. Let's get on.
How many times have how many times have you been there when you're like, whew, one more thing off my
I'm
list?
just ready to be done. I'm like, let's just be done.
Yes.
All right. So if you're questioning your competence. Oh my gosh, I can't speak. You're questioning your competency or your capability.
Hmm.
You're ruminating over someone else's behavior at work and how it needs to change.
Mm.
You feel annoyed and agitated thinking about it at home, and you desire to tell them about themselves. And your desire to tell them about themselves gets stronger and stronger. If you're doing that, if you're thinking about somebody at your job and you can't stop thinking about something they said to you, something they did to you, some slick remark they might have made, and you still thinking about that happened on Monday, you still thinking about it on Saturday night, that's a problem. Your
Hmm.
primitive brain is taking all kinds of over in your head. You need to let that go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let it go. Because guess what? Those person is not even thinking about you. Not 8 days later.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's normal. It's definitely normal if you're upset. Somebody says something to you and you're getting upset. That day of, okay, you're upset. That day after, okay, maybe so. But 7 days later, you still have that same energy, but even more so about something this person said to you. You're
Hmm.
obviously in that primitive brain. Now your
Yeah.
brain is like you. This person is attacking you. They're
Yeah.
trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Like so,
Yeah.
you're trying to devise a way to get out of or to get back out or get to what, and you're spending all this energy because your brain is telling you that you're about to die.
Yeah.
But like Shaq said, perspective.
Hmm.
Bring it back.
Yeah.
Bring it back. Where are we? We're at the
Yeah.
work office. Ain't nothing there to kill you with. I mean, unless you're trying to grab a stapler. But come on, somebody. Nobody killing them. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying don't happen, but usually
Yeah.
that's not the case,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, something you said, going from there, like having perspective is like, being out of that primitive brain is like, having clarity and focus.
Mhm.
That's how you know, like the difference between, I mean, that's just one of the things. Am I clear about what's actually happening? And can I be focused on whatever the task is that's
Right.
in front of me?
Mhm. Yeah. And so those are all the things like Shaq just said of that's how you know that you're not operating from the primitive brain.
Mhm.
Like you said, clarity, focus, self compassion, motivation, resiliency. You're able to bounce back from criticism quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not like ruminate and hold it in your heart
Yeah.
and take it everywhere you go for the next week and a half.
Yeah.
You let it go. Like, okay, she said something slick. That's cool. Or he said
Mhm.
something slick. All right, moving
It's
on.
like
I
having
got
this
some.
confidence in who you are. When
Right.
you don't know who you are, you don't have an identity. People say something, it
Hmm.
can tear you up, right? And so having this
Right.
deeper sense of self, so that when people say something, you're not ruminating on their words. You can actually listen to what they're saying and go, is there any truth to that? No, there's no truth to that. Why? Because I've self-assessed. I've talked to people who know me. They
Right.
have not mentioned that this is something about my character that's come up for them, and so I know where to put that at. We just toss that out with the trash, and then you're
Yeah.
able to keep going.
Yeah. And that's, yeah, fact checking. That was a great
Yes.
point. Checking the facts, like Shaq said. You you. Your friends or family know you. What do they
Mhm.
always tell you about yourself? What
Yeah.
do you know about yourself? Use that information against what might be going in your mind at that moment, and
Mhm.
recognizing that this really isn't how it's going down. My brain is just really catastrophizing this
Oh,
whole
yeah.
thing.
I thought that was
I'm
a
just
fake word, contrastifying. I thought that was a fake word. You know, out in GBT, and I'm like, they done made up that word.
they done made that mess up. They ain't no word.
Contrastifying. Yes. I was like, "Oh, no, they done made up a word," until I realized, like, "Oh, it's a real word? Oh, okay."
Mm.
It's funny to hear you use it. I'm like, "Oh, okay, I guess we used the word."
Yep, it's a word, y'all.
Yes. No, it is real. It's a real word, guys. Say it again?
Catastrophizing.
Contrastifying.
I please. Now you got me second guessing. Now,
Oh,
oh my goodness.
terrible. So some
Yeah,
ways in having
catastrophizing. Yes, that's
okay,
it.
say it again.
Catastrophizing.
Contas
Catastrophizing. Catastrophizing.
Catastrophizing. Catastrophizing. Say that 5 times real fast.
Catastrophizing. Yeah. It's like people who assume the worst is going to happen, or yourself,
Yeah,
or whoever. Like, the worst is going to happen. Oh my gosh! If my boss, if my boss comes in here and I'm not done with this email, he's going to fire me. He's
yeah,
going to throw me out. He's going to take all my stuff, put in the box, gas security to walk me out the door, and throw the box on the ground, and all my
yeah,
pens are going to splatter all over the. That's catastrophizing.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay, you
That's
are
at the
5 minutes
same
late
time
on
when
this
you got to
email.
take a glass of water and throw it in somebody's face, or you smack them and snap
Yeah,
out of it.
stop it. Stop it now. Oh my gosh.
It takes
How
those
did we get from
seconds.
this to that?
It's
Calm
in like
down.
0 to 60.
In 0.25 seconds. Like,
Yes.
oh my. I know everybody probably knows somebody who does that though. I
Oh,
do.
yeah. I feel like, you can always trace it back to attachment issues. It's like,
Mm,
I'm not going to take us down that tangent, but yeah, if we go back and look and see what type of attachment styles people have, we can see why a lot of times they catastrophize situations.
catastrophize. Yeah. Yeah. So to wrap everything up, you guys, about anxiety in the workplace, it is real, obviously.
Mhm.
Um, our primitive brain sometimes takes over because
Mhm.
our primitive brain wants to survive, and they feel like every time that we are.
Yeah. So our primitive brain wants to survive, and it's like every time we feel like that's in danger, our anxiety levels rise, and we start to catastrophize, and we start to worry, and we start to build up a lot of fear, and that anxiety level rises from the stress. Our bodies tense up, they don't contract, and so then we have health issues, we have emotional issues, we have mental issues, and so we want to make sure that to make sure that we're not in primitive brain, we want to make sure that we're able to see a situation clearly. We want to make sure that we have good focus, and we want to be resilient. And, some things that you can do before even going to work or attacking a situation. Um, we can maybe even do a podcast on just breath work and how to breathe through the anxiety, how to just walk away and take a few minutes outside and just kind of calm yourself down. Take you through some tension exercises so you can release the tension that's being held up in your body and breathe through it so that you can focus. Because when you are in fight or flight mode, you cannot think, you're just reacting. And so you want to be able to go through some exercises, whether it's breath work or tension work, to help you focus, gain clarity, talk to somebody,
Yeah.
and then reapproach the situation with a different
I
perspective.
just missed half of everything that was said because I just kept bouncing in and out. I don't know what just happened.
I saw that. I was like, oh no. Listen, thank God for notes. So your girl can just pick up where you left off. I was like, oh, okay. What's happening right now?
Thank you for listening to another episode of Let Me Tell You with Shaq and Chris. We will bring you another episode next Wednesday at 7 p.m. To get notifications and to listen to past episodes, please follow and like us on Instagram at lmtu.sc, on Facebook and YouTube at Let Me Tell You. And of course, if you're listening to us on Podbean, make sure to follow us. Lastly, let me tell you to live a healthy and full life.